Here we are, riffing Wild Black. And here is Dr. Kazika Prince here with you, co-host with my friend, Dr. Lawrence James. How you doing, my brother?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. I'm a little parched, so I had to hydrate.
Hydrate.
Drink
I should
water.
probably have some water. Only liquid I have here is liquid smoke.
I don't think you want to drink that. You're gonna have some good
Nah,
barbecue though.
nah, it's all kinds of salmonella and whatever else is in there. But
Right.
really glad to be talking today. For those who are paying attention, as you should, tomorrow is Juneteenth, my brother.
Juneteenth.
Hotep, keep hope alive.
Keep up lot, right?
Revolution will not be
Will
televised.
not be right?
So that's tomorrow. I don't know what folks might be doing. For a lot of folks, they may have to work, but it is a federal holiday. We're in our third year of it
Right.
being a
Yeah,
federal.
I think that's right.
Yeah, so you should be
I don't know
off.
nobody who getting that day off, by the way.
Well, hospital workers, people working at the grocery store, those folks will still be
Right.
working.
Right.
But hopefully you're getting a day off or working time and a half
Well,
for Juneteenth. And if you're not, hopefully you're getting some rest.
you know what? You just said so. Because, you know what? If you're getting paid on Juneteenth, unlike the folks who have been lied to for like the 2 years before they found out, then actually, it's sort of like a weird reparations kind of thing.
Yes, I want my
You
time
get
and a
double
half too.
paid. You know what? That might be better. Fuck a day off. Give me double
Time
time.
and a half. Give me double
Give me
time.
double time for going to work. Let's make that Juneteenth.
And if there's any reparations you want to hand out, like the black man's discount.
The black man, see, the black man discount. You're like, get the discount, double pay.
There
That's
you go.
it. That's
There you
what
go. And then for those who are paying attention as well, we have Father's Day coming up on this Sunday. Happy
my
Father's
brother.
Day to all those folks out there. I actually called my daughter and I was like, so,
No.
because for the mamas, for good or for bad, the mamas, there's already plans and
Man,
ceremonies.
it's all there, right?
Me, I'm like, are they gonna remember, brother? But I learned a long time ago.
Uh-huh.
You gotta tell them what you want. You can't
That's true.
wait, right? And mamas know this. You just tell them what you want.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, so Sunday's Father's Day. She goes, yeah, I know, Poppy. I already took the day off. I'm like,
Oh,
okay. So I'm not sure what we're gonna do, but we'll have some
okay.
time to.
So is your gift is that she's gonna spend time with you?
Yeah, we'll probably
That's
find something to do, have dinner,
okay.
hang out.
Nice.
She'll be like, I don't want to go outside. It's too hot. It's Father's Day. I want to do what I want to do.
Right, you're right. You're like, isn't that what it's supposed to be? It's Father's Day. That's my day. Which is funny because I think Father's Day or any day that daddies are with daughters and or sons is really the kids' day. Not really your day.
It's a kid because you paying for dinner,
Right,
and
exactly.
all the things. It's like,
And no shade to your daughter, but like you end up paying for dinner, pay for the movie, whatever it is, you be like, I'm gonna pay for it, So it's like, oh my
yeah,
god.
it's great. But I'm looking forward to it. So it should be a good weekend for all that. But we have some good topics to talk about, but some tough topics today. The side eye, which we'll get to at the end, is two topics. One is about the commentary. We're actually going to talk about the UFC in general, but one of the performers, I call it, one of the fighters called Michelle Obama a man during the UFC, and this is basically the first UFC event that happened at the White House on the White House lawn
Right.
that the
Hopefully
president
the last.
supported, which is anyhow another thing. But one of the guys decided they did want to talk about Michelle Obama being a man, and I'm like, yeah, you know what, you can kick rocks. And the other thing we're going to talk about is a really sad death of a 1-year-old boy in Mississippi by the Mississippi police down there, and all the circumstances related to that. So we got two side eyes, and there's so many more, but those are the ones we're going to focus on today.
Yes.
But then we want back to the UFC. And I might ask Dr. James to take a lead on this when we get to it, but this has to do with Stephen A. and Jay Williams, former NBA player, who were at the UFC event this past week with on I was going to say on George Washington's birthday, but it's on Donald Trump's birthday when he turned 80. So we'll talk about that. Then we want to kind of hit two topics at the same time: the myth of the absent black father and what we learned from our fathers. Because we both of us had dads and or had male figures or father figures in our lives, and so we're gonna spend some time on that. And then I thought it'd be good for us to just talk about what's the future of fatherhood. You know,
Mm.
because I think sometimes it's just not something we spend enough time on. I know I need to for a number of reasons because brother's not getting any younger. I'm like, so what is the future? So those are our topics for today. I feel like I want to tackle the myth of the black father and what we've learned from our fathers first, if you don't
Absolutely.
mind.
No, no. I think that's it's Father's Day, brother. So
Yeah,
apropos.
yeah. Well, I wanted to approach it that way because one of the biggest myths that's been around for years, decades, is this idea that black fathers are just not present in the home. This
Mm.
constant criticism because of the high divorce rate. There's a number of misnomers out there and stereotypes about black fatherhood. And I guess that was and unfortunately, it's based off of some misunderstandings, I'll say, because for a lot of folks, they didn't grow up with a father in the home, you know. But the
Let's
research
just
is,
just said
yeah,
they didn't grow up with a father in the home.
right,
It don't
right,
mean they didn't grow up without a daddy.
yes, two different
Sorry,
things.
sorry,
Yeah.
two different. Keep going.
Well, and that's the thing, right? It's this whole premise that the only way a family can function is if you have the traditional or conventional
Mm.
idea
Right.
of,
That
of,
nuclear
of
family.
a heterosexual relationship at
Right.
best, a
Hmm.
father and mother in the home, and then whatever number of kids. And this stereotype of the absent father was really kind of cast on the black family because it was just because of the high divorce rate. But let's be clear: divorce rates are high amongst all groups of people
Very.
in this
In this
country,
country.
but for some reason, black and brown and particularly black folks have been accused of just not being present at all.
Hmm.
And I'll be honest, I struggled with this one at first because there were periods of time where my father wasn't present.
Okay.
There was actually years, different
Mm.
pockets of time
Okay.
where he wasn't wrong. And so I remember when I first came across this myth, there was part
Mm.
of me saying, well, my father wasn't always
Right.
wrong.
Yeah.
And even though he was around, he wasn't around. You
Yeah. Yeah.
know, because he was present, but not present in the ways that, like, we didn't have regular visitation all the time. We
Gotcha.
didn't go see
Gotcha.
him. He didn't come pick us up all the time.
Hmm.
Or did
Hmm.
he do it at times? Yes. I'm not saying he
Hmm.
didn't ever. I'm saying there was a inconsistency,
Periods. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And he had his own things that he was. So for me, I'll be honest. There was a part of me when I was younger that thought maybe that was true. I don't know.
Mm.
What do you think? What's your experience?
Yeah. So my dad was around. He was always there. It's interesting. Um, so when I was a little kid, to be honest, me and my dad were on very different pages.
Mm,
His definition of about black masculinity and mine were very different.
mm,
Uh, so I won't say we fought, but like we just wasn't on the same page. Uh, and so he's in the house. He's doing all the things that we would say a father's supposed to do. He bringing home the bread. Blah blah blah. But I wouldn't have said growing up like I felt particularly connected to him. I mean, it changed as I got older and I better understood him and my
mm,
perspectives on things changed. But I think my dad, I would say, ascribed to a very traditional
mm,
view of fatherhood,
mm,
practiced not only by black men but white men and everybody in the country of his age. My dad was born in 1940, which was you go to work,
mm,
you bring home the bacon,
mm.
um, and that's about it. And you
Yeah.
cut the grass,
Right.
right?
Right.
Uh, and the rest of that is up to your mama. All that.
I'm laughing because that phrase you just use. Well, that's you ask your mama.
Ask your mama, dude. That's what it was. He's like, that man be like, boy, did you cut the grass? That was the extent of our conversation. And my mama like, boy, you better cut that grass before your daddy get home. And I'm like, what the fuck is with this grass situation?
I'm gonna burn that grass.
Man, look. A couple times I did put the gas can on like pour the gas into the grass and burnt that shit up. I was like, oh, I'm like, I wish I could figure out how to do this, man. He loved his grass. I'm like, he'd be like, it was pristine. We had the best grass on the street. But in terms of like that, that my daddy was not Bill Cosby. You know what I
Mm-mm.
mean? It wasn't that nurturing me.
Mm-mm.
Me, I was not Theo in my house by any stretch of the imagination. So I think how we defined fatherhood was different. But I tell you something was really interesting, and I'll admit I was in my 30s when I sort of figured my dad out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it really was my best friend who helped me because he's like,
Mm-hmm.
man, he's like, my dad is we're at the same. I'm Lawrence James Jr. So, but my dad went by Larry, and my best friend called him Laro. Don't ask me why. That was just his nickname. And he's like, man, leave Laro alone. He's like, Laro is cool. I was like, no, he ain't. He a pain in my ass. And he be like, man, yo daddy came down and hung out and played golf with me. He gonna walk, and he was married. My friend's black. He was gonna marry a white lady. He's like, he said he was gonna walk Karen down the aisle, because her father wasn't. He ended up doing it, but you know what I mean. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, and he's like, I was hanging out with your daddy playing golf. I was like, why? He's like, man, we had a great time. So he helped me to see my father in a very different way than I saw him. But I realized through him and through some other things, we disconnected because I didn't get him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that was my fault or his fault, but like I didn't really get what he was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he clearly didn't get what I was trying to do. That's what I always realized growing up. But when I started figuring out like, what does he really want from this relationship? And I realized like all my dad really wanted was just in his way to be connected
Mm-hmm.
and know what was going on in my life,
Right. Right.
which I found very intrusive because he wasn't necessarily the dad that I felt like I wanted
Right.
or needed. And when I kind of got through my own angst about all that and just sort of was like, oh, okay, Laro's just, he just want to know. And this is super old school black people.
Mm.
He just want to know you all right. That's it. He don't really need to know all the details. None of that. He like, boy, you okay?
You all
And
right?
literally the question was, boy, are you okay?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
never what he asked me.
Right.
But the question was, boy, are you okay?
Right. Right.
And so if I gave him the litany of all the things that showed that I was okay,
Mm-hmm.
my job happened, this happened, blah, blah, blah. I was out with this girl, I did this, I was hanging out with my peoples, yada, yada, yada. Like we'd go from our house to the golf course. It'd be like a 20-minute diatribe. And then we could just play golf. And
Right.
I could concentrate on golf and I didn't actually have to answer no fucking questions about life. And I was really happy. And I think he was happy.
Mm.
He knew what he needed to know.
Right.
My little boy is okay.
Uh-huh.
And I told him what he needed to know. And then I could go play golf.
Right. Right.
And we was good. So,
Right.
and it worked for us.
Well, and what I really, really appreciate you speaking on is each of us have unique relationships with our fathers,
Yeah.
and what you described as I think is probably a lot of black men, but there's other black fathers who are different, and and there's a variety of fatherhood in our communities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, but what you described, I think, is probably a common one. Like,
Yeah,
it,
it
I
didn't
mean,
feel like it was that unusual for most
no,
of us.
no, that was pretty common.
All our daddies were about the same dude, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they ask
Yeah.
about grades. They
Right.
what sports you playing. Are there any girls you talking
Right.
to?
How many girls you talking to?
Yeah, yeah. You listen
Right.
to your mama. Did you do what you're
Right.
supposed to? I mean, it's
Did you
kind of
do what
this
you're
baseline.
supposed to?
Don't ask about if you hungry. Do you hungry? No, no one asked me that. Matter of
No,
fact,
no.
I was told a few times. I was like, "Daddy, I'm hungry." You're like, "No, you're not." Wasn't time for me to be hungry,
You're
apparently.
like, no, you're not. Like, but my stomach's growling. No, it's not.
But I'm glad we're talking about this because again, this myth of an absent father who's not around, who's not involved, who's not doing whatever things that people's interpretation of what fatherhood
Right.
looks like, is in real contrast. Now, are there plenty of men who tell you their fathers were absent? Yes,
Absolutely.
but the research is clear that when you talk about attentive fathers and their involvement with their families, whether they're in the house or not in the house,
Mm-hmm.
the numbers are clear. They're actually higher than other groups of people in
Mm,
this country. But
mm,
there's this misnomer that we're not
yeah,
involved. And
right.
I'll be honest, I love it when I see a brother out there at the Walmart, grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
at the mall, at the park with
Right.
their kids, doing
Right
just
with the kid.
doing being just being a black father.
Just being, yeah, right.
Not
No, mama ain't nowhere around. It's just dude with
just
his
them by
kid.
themselves. But
Mm-hmm.
as if that's something special because it's not.
Right.
But I'm glad to see it because I think oftentimes there's a the contrast or what people's myths are about this
Yeah.
is not true, and
Yes.
so I don't know. And again, fatherhood looks different depending on the situation and circumstances. I'll be really curious about what my son and daughter say about what it's like to be.
That's right.
Uh,
Right. You have to ask your daughter on Sunday, right? Be like, what is that like for you?
there's a part of me is like I think I know, and there's another part of me like I probably don't have any idea whatsoever.
It's all
But
them layers, though, right? Because it's
yeah.
like you know what the experience was like for you
Hmm.
and what you were
Hmm.
intending to do, and you have some sense via the relationship. Obviously, you have a great relationship with both of your kids, so that tells me I know you did some things right.
I
You
sure
know,
do hope.
in terms of that relationship, and but the things that you don't know or don't understand, absolutely. I mean that's human.
You know, something I had to struggle with as a father early
Mm,
on, and it was something I still had to battle, especially when went through the divorce.
mm,
You know, sometimes when you go through a dysfunctional life, sometimes you're what you struggle with is knowing which way is up because you haven't been
yeah.
accustomed
Mm,
to a certain way of being, coming
hmm.
from a single parent home,
Yeah.
other kinds of struggles, and so one of the things I struggled with was I hope my kids know I love them,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So I was in my session with my therapist, and he says, "Well, what is this based off? Good old CBT stuff, right? Cognitive
Right.
behavioral, right?" He's
Hit
like,
you with
"So what's your evidence for this?" I said,
right.
"Well,
What's
I
your
don't know. I'm just worried." Blah, blah, blah.
mm,
Well, did you ask them? Why don't
right?
you go ask
Oh,
them? And so I go ask them both
mm,
individually, and they're like, "Yeah, Poppy, blah blah blah," this, and they're just, and I literally was like tearing up, right?
mm,
Because there was no doubt they
yeah.
knew I loved them
Mm,
even in times
mm,
when they've had struggles personally that have been
yeah.
difficult. And I'm like, I hope, I mean, because you know, when kids have struggles, sometimes you're like, well, maybe I didn't love them enough or something
Yeah. Something
ridiculous
I
like that.
didn't do that played a
Right.
role.
And
Yeah.
they're like,
Mm,
Poppy, no, I'm just struggling right now, and it has
yeah.
nothing to do with you. It's just I'm
Mm-hmm.
having a hard time, and I know you
Mm,
love me.
mm.
Sometimes your love is a is a burden because I know
A little bit less right now.
because you love me
I gotta
less a
work through
little
some
bit.
stuff. Right.
But
Hello,
it, it
the breathe.
but that was that was a struggle I've had for years because
Yeah.
I think
Mm,
because I wasn't concerned about the love that I had been receiving
right.
from my
Yep.
father, and there was uncertainty, so I hadn't gotten accustomed to what that's like.
Mm,
And so when I talked to my kids, I had this great conversation with my son yesterday. We just hadn't
mm,
talked in a while, and we were on the phone. I don't know, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, just
mm.
jibber jabbering about
Yeah.
everything. And
Mm.
afterwards, I'm so sensitive right now.
Yeah.
I just start tearing up, and I'm just happy for
Yeah.
him. I'm
Right.
happy to have these kinds of conversations. These are the things I guess I've always wanted,
Yeah.
and when I get it and I
Mm.
have those experiences, I'm just like, man, this
That's
feels so fucking good.
right. But look, I think you're speaking of something that's so important in this journey, whether fathers are in the household or outside. Is you talk about one having a personal awareness, um, but also having an idea about how do I want to show up as a dad. Like
Hmm.
my kids knowing that I love them was really important to you, and you did everything in your power to show that, and
Yeah,
I'm sure you disciplined your kids and all the other things that you needed to do as a parent, but in these proportions. And I think, um, you know, I, I think there's just this real opportunity um, for fathers to do more of that and to lean in. And I'd love, man, if I had my magic wand,
hmm,
I'd love for all fathers to be leaning more in on that love piece that you
hmm,
talked about.
yep, yep,
I
yep.
mean, and I think the love, the caring, the emotionality pieces,
Hmm.
because, you know, I think often men are seen kind of as automatons. And if I
Hmm.
look back at even my experience with my dad, I mean, you know, he's pretty stoic, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
um, through most of my life. It was very hard for me, at least, to understand. I'm like, what's going on with this cat? Where's he coming from?
Hmm.
And I don't, I never sort of sat there and thought, oh, my dad doesn't love me or anything
Hmm.
like that. I definitely thought he didn't get me, but it wasn't
Right.
like he loved me. But you know, as I got older and I could step back and see him differently, I created a story.
Hmm.
Now, God knows if that story is accurate,
Hmm.
but I created a story around who he was and what he was, what was important. At some level, it would have been nice for him to have told me that story, and shared, I mean, he did share some nuggets. Like, he's
Of
like,
course.
boy, your friends are really important. He's like, you only get one or two, like, really good friends in your whole life. He's
Hmm.
like, treasure them. And
Hmm.
that nugget actually stuck with me,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, so it made me know through the story that he believed friends and friendship was important. And he believed family, he's like, your mama got me on an allowance. I'm like, wait a minute, how you on allowance with your money? He's like, I give her the money because I don't want to know, I don't want to hear nothing. He goes, but I keep my lunch money. My dad would do some crazy shit. He's like, I keep my lunch money, um, cause in case, like, your cousins or my siblings, they need some help.
Hmm.
I got a little pocket money that I
Hmm.
could flip to them, in case they need it. And so that told me family was really important to him. So I learned things that were important to him more by the examples than what he
Hmm.
ever said. But yeah, but it was interesting. But yeah, sometimes I think I'm like, it would have been kind of cool to be like, tell me what matters to you or how you think about stuff. Um, so give me the shorthand, and maybe it would have been, I don't know, maybe it would have made us closer than what we were,
Yeah. Well,
at least give me a different perspective.
what you make me think about is just what do we learn from our fathers? And there's different
Mm-hmm.
ways of learning, right? There's the conversations, the ones that we had and the ones we wish we had.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the example that oftentimes they
Yeah.
exemplify. And this may be the father, the stepfather, the male
Mm-hmm.
figures in your life. And for me, it
Yeah.
was my mother's father, my grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
his
Mm-hmm.
father, my great grandfather.
Oh wow.
These people, I mean, just their sense of humor, their
Mm-hmm.
presence, their hugs, their
Mm-hmm.
admiration, their high expectations. Those
Mm-hmm.
are all things I learned without them saying really much.
Yeah.
It was just like what they kind of overhearing conversations
Yep.
or
Mm-hmm.
and so I think those are some of the ways that we learn from our fathers,
Yeah.
and also mothers, but fathers in
Yep.
particular, that I think are important because I think sometimes maybe some people feel like it's the conversation or the rule books that you
Mm-hmm.
got but
Yes.
there's so many ways that we learn from our parents, from our
Yeah.
fathers. It's
Yeah.
it's hard to kind of keep track.
It is. It
But it's
is.
important that we, because the very things you're talking about is definitely things I've learned from, whether it be my father or other male men in my life
Yeah.
who were trying to show me what's up,
That's right.
and to be honest, it wasn't just them trying to show me something; it was me wanting to know
To
what's the
know.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I've mentioned a couple of times on here. I do some mentoring at a Catholic high school here on the west side of Chicago, and many of the kids who are there, their fathers are not necessarily in the home. But even for the kids whose fathers are, like, I watch and I listen to them. They talk a lot about this struggle about,
Hmm.
like, of becoming,
Hmm.
um, and uh, you know that feels like it's missing for many of them. And I think some of it is that whole thing of, even if daddy is there, he's so busy working and
Hmm.
providing, that maybe he doesn't take the opportunity to let you know, some things. And I think we spend a lot of time. And I remember this piece, which didn't work so well for me as a kid, but my dad liked to tell me what to do.
Hmm.
And I was never really a person who did well
Hmm.
with people telling me what to do. I
Hmm.
still don't. Um, you know, and so, and I know what he was doing, which was, I don't want you to make the mistakes I made.
Giving you guidance.
Give him guidance, but it came down as a you got to do this.
Hmm.
It came down more as a dictate than a
Hmm.
guidance piece. And so, you know, like when I'm mentoring kids, I very rarely tell them what to do.
Hmm.
One, because I'm not them,
Right, right.
you know. So I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying, what you're considering. Would you consider this? Would you consider that? Well, why do you think that is for you? And some of that I'm
Hmm.
sure about training as therapists too. But and some kids literally are like, no, no, I need you to tell me.
Like I need clear
I
instructions.
need clear instructions. And if they ask me for clear instructions,
Hmm.
there's clear instructions. You know, my play son, who actually would go to jail and all this kind of crazy stuff, we got to a point where I literally said to him, because he'd be saying some crazy stuff. And I'm like, okay, Jonathan, here's your mantra. What would Lawrence do? I said, because you make terrible decisions. Why your ass in jail? Um, and he just started laughing. And I was like, I'm serious. I'm like, I'm not joking. I'm like, what would Lawrence do? And he's like, okay. Um, and then I'd be like, so what would Lawrence do? And he'd be like, well, Lawrence would do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, exactly. You know, and even when he got out of jail, he would hit me with, he goes, I was thinking about what you said. I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, you know, what you told me. I was like, what? He goes, what would Lawrence do? I was like, oh, I forgot the shit. And he'd be like, so I thought, well, this is what Jonathan would do. And then I'd be like, well, what would Lawrence do? He goes, what would Lawrence do actually was a better idea. I'm like, exactly. Exactly. Keep your ass out of jail.
Think through that. Think
Think
through
through
that.
that. That's which is all it was. It's like, but but it was kind of funny, you know what I mean? But for him, it was like, you you need more direction, you know. And some kids don't. I mean, I'm sure you see
Yeah,
that with your
yeah.
kids.
Oh yeah.
They're people, and how you
Yeah,
you love them both,
yeah.
but how you deal with them is different based upon what you see, you know.
Oh, different.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, and I'm transitioning a little bit to the future of fatherhood
I was about to say
because,
this is a good segue to future. Yeah.
yeah, because I think one of the generational challenges, personality challenges, I think a lot of our fathers or the generation prior to us, fatherhood looked more like deference. Like you
Mm.
do what I tell you to do.
Yeah.
Don't do anything I do.
Yes.
Speak until you're spoken
Speak when
to.
you're spoken
Don't get
to.
into grown folks' conversations.
Right.
And I'm not saying I haven't abandoned all that. I'm just saying it was a little more clear, right?
Oh, crystal clear.
Whereas I think deference was out of just pure, I'm your parent. Forget
Yes.
what you did, whether it was
Mm-hmm.
respectable or not, and all that kind of stuff. You deferred to their authority, and that was it.
Yes.
And that was a
Mm-hmm.
partly survival,
Yep.
post slavery,
Mm-hmm.
all that nonsense, right? And now we talk about respect, right? We want our kids to respect us. Some of us want our kids to be our friends. I'm not a big fan of that, that
Yeah, that's crazy.
idea. But
Let me be very clear. That's crazy. Your kids.
I just want to be their friend. No,
No,
I am
stop
always going to be your father
it. Exactly.
because I
Stop
don't want you talking crazy to me. I still feel
it.
weird about
No,
my kids cussing around me. I don't
exactly.
even cuss
My
around
mama
my
86.
elders.
She quick to be like, I ain't your friend. I was like, sure, mom.
I ain't one of your little friends.
I ain't one of your little friends. I'm like, my friends are old as hell now. What you talking about?
But my aunt and uncles, they're all in their 70s and 80s, and I still feel funny about cussing around. And so I realize that it's a deference versus
Yeah.
respect, and with respect,
Yeah.
it's different to
Yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
else. But I think when I think about the future, I think about what you said earlier. How can we get beyond just the kind of fundamentals of
Mm-hmm.
you're all right, everything's
Yeah.
good, but
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like when we talk about, when I get pissed off with my allies in the social justice space. It's like it's not enough for you to get these kids to graduate from first grade and high school.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to help them out become billionaires. And if
Mm-hmm.
you don't believe in billionaires, at least millionaires.
Yeah.
Because if you're not helping them in the ways that you would help your own children, you're just
Mm-hmm.
doing charity work, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
And so
Right.
to me, it's not enough to just provide the basics. Now I get
Yeah.
it. economics, blah blah blah. But
Mhm.
there's so many things that don't cost money, and I say this because there was a brother. I wish I looked him up before, but he talks about how he grew up in the hood
Mhm.
and he fought
Mhm.
and he did all these things. And so when he looked at his son, he thought, "Man, my son's a punk." Because
Right, right,
he didn't grow up like me, hard in
right.
the streets and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And he said at some point he stopped thinking about his son in that way because he's like, look, I raised him in a world where he didn't have to deal with
Have
those
to do
things.
all that.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't want him to live in that life.
Right.
And so no, he's not that. Oh, I'm expecting him to be like me, but
Yeah.
I was the way I was because of how I grew up.
Context.
And,
Yeah.
and, and I'll be honest, that's a struggle, I think, because I think even for me, I grew up in a certain way and I fought a lot to a
Mhm.
certain point. I felt like I was always fighting. And then I raised my kids in a different situation and I wonder why they're not like me. Well,
Right.
good, good.
Right. Good. Right. Right.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah. You said something really important though, because I think the story maybe of the future of parenting is um, it doesn't go overboard with indulgence and infantilizing kids,
mm-hmm,
but it's also not what we grew up with, which is shut up and know your place.
right,
Be seen, not
right,
heard.
right.
Uh, there's a dynamic that exists in parenting, and in some respects, I think it's harder
Yeah, it is.
because in parenting, I think for our parents was hard, but it was pretty black and white,
Right, right,
right?
right.
Now we're asking people to be more nuanced. Kind of the conversation we had last week about
Mm-hmm,
Plattner, right? Is
mm-hmm,
like, is rehabilitation possible? And it's like, well, it's not a yes or no, black or white situation. There's some nuance there. I think for fathers in particular, positioning themselves, to be nurturing and caring and tough.
right, right.
Um, I think the future is showing the complexity of manhood, whether with your son or with your daughter, or with your child, is important to help them as they are on their journey. One to defend self, but also in terms of helping them look for a partner at some point in the future. It's like this is what, and maybe just this is what a whole human being looks like.
Right.
You Emotional and tough and all those things all at the same time.
Yeah, and I guess for me, when I think about parenting, I think part of the challenge that with us, at least here in the States, is that you have the post-colonialism, post-slavery, all these things that I think happened to us as a culture that formed our idea of what parenting should look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And part of me, sometimes when I think about the kind of parent I want to be, I look at other countries, other cultures, and see what they're doing not in response to oppression, but how they may have been before they were.
Mm-hmm.
And what you see is story after story of the very thing we're talking about, the nuance, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not based off of, being in conflict and war all the time. It's based off,
Mm-hmm.
oppression. It's raising them up. It's having real conversations. It's about being good providers, but being emotionally, well and having a vibrant a series of emotions. You're not just one thing or another, right? And so you consistently hear that kind of story across cultures, particularly even in the continent of fatherhood being something that's robust,
Mm-hmm.
dynamic, uh, and living in a family that's that way as well, and not being in response to some form of oppression or patriarchy or other
Mm-hmm.
kinds of nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. That's the beautiful part to me as far as the future, because I think there's a great future in front of us. There's things that are going on today that are great. I just think sometimes as a father, I feel like my job wasn't just to go on what was put in front of me. I had to go out and find like what the kind
Yeah.
of father I wanted to be. I
Mm-hmm.
had to go find it
Go find it.
and embrace it and make
Yeah.
mistakes, say I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and be a better parent, be a better person. And
Yeah.
hopefully I'm still on that journey. But that's kind of how I see the future of being a parent, being a father.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I love what you just said because I think it really matters. for parents and parenting figures. And as you're talking, one thing that crossed my mind was this sense of, and we're talking about fathers, but it's also community.
Mm, mm,
Um,
mm,
you know, like I have my play son, but I don't have biological kids. Um, I'm an uncle to many.
mm. What's up,
And
Unc?
right? Um, and I'm reminded, like my best friend, I've told you, he passed away a couple of years ago. Like his son is my godchild. I love this kid to death. He's a brilliant young man. Um, and his dad he had a certain way that he wanted his son to grow up.
Mm,
And don't get me wrong, he was a good father, very good
mm,
father. But it's funny because me and his son now will have these conversations, and I'm like, and I'll say stuff to him, and I always did. I'll be like, "Are you like, where are you? How are you
mm,
feeling? What are you
mm,
doing?"
mm,
Kind of. It was the questioning, but trying to understand. Um, you know, because I'm like, yeah, I get it. You don't necessarily want to do that. I was like, your daddy ain't gonna go for that, but I get it, and you're gonna have to figure out how to make that work. You
mm,
know, um, but I think and I think because he said something to me, he's like, nah, he's like, Uncle Lawrence, I appreciate that you've always been supportive and that you gave me space at times, to sort of say or do or think what, you know, kind of made sense to me. And, but I think between his dad and me and a whole bunch of village, you know, we all got a little bit of hand in helping to shape who this young man has become. I mean, the
mm.
vast majority is his mom and dad for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah, yeah.
you know, but we've also had influences.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm with my friends' kids, I'm quite I try to be very thoughtful about how I engage with them and what I do or say with them. Because I'm like, my uncles had an impact on me. I know they did.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I think there's a recognition that, we as a community are raising these kids and what are the impacts that we are also trying to have
Yeah. Well,
that matter.
unfortunately, Hillary Clinton gets credit for it takes a village to raise a
Mm.
child.
You
But
mean,
as
you mean that
you
African proverb? Yeah.
African proverb that's been around since
Right.
Methuselah,
The
and
Methuselah. Right, exactly.
and it's also a theme that you see across cultures: the value of
Hmm.
community, of 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 your group, your crew, your people taking
Yeah.
care of you and looking at. I mean, we
Hmm.
still tell stories about how someone told on you.
Yeah.
That's all you can do is something down the street that you
Miss
shouldn't
Smith
have
down the street.
been. Like the police is
You know
everywhere.
what that boy Kevin was out there doing? Yeah.
Oh god, thank
He
God.
yelled at you to stop doing whatever it was that you was doing.
It's just the potential. It didn't even have to happen. Just the
Yeah,
potential
that's
that
real.
something could
Like,
happen.
ooh, oh,
I
Miss
mean, I got
Johnson
away
on
with
the
plenty,
block.
but
Right, exactly. Miss Johnson on the block. You better stop messing around.
but hey, let's transition. One, I really appreciate that conversation. I think it was great for us to
Absolutely.
take some time for that. I wanted to just touch on this William James and Stephen A. because you know a little bit more about it than I do, but let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and honestly, it came up because, well, let me give you context. So, UFC 250 was last weekend, and both Stephen A. Smith, the ESPN commentator, and Jay Williams, who's also an ESPN commentator, were both at the event. So 4,000 people showed up. Um, and the video clip that I saw, I did not see it because I don't care about UFC, and I definitely didn't care about this. But the clip that I saw was Stephen A. and Jay Williams on probably like First Take talking about the event. And they both said what a wonderful event it was. Now, let me say, these are two black men, and it hit my ear a certain kind of way and not positive. Yeah, I was about to throw up. I was like, ooh,
Oh,
seriously, what's wrong with you?
cornball,
Right. I was like,
bitch
it was
ass niggas. That's
wonderful.
what I want to
Right,
say.
basically. I was like, it was wonderful. It was so great. It was amazing. It was on the White House lawn, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm sure all that was really great. Um, and I went in on them. Me and all my friends, we went in like, these coon ass, like we was just killing. And what it made me think about KP was our conversation last week
Mm-hmm.
about Graham Plattner,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about, are you the worst thing that you've ever done?
Mm-hmm.
Can you be rehabilitated?
Mm-hmm.
And in the midst of it, and I'm still on him, um, but the context, the reason I wanted to talk about it was I was like, and I'll put it in black and white. Last week I was like, I couldn't even do my job if people couldn't be rehabilitated, right?
Right.
And now this week, I'm like, these coon ass niggas out here, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, damn, Lawrence. I was like,
That sounds judgy.
it sounds super like more than judgy, right? And I'm like, it sounds inconsistent and
Right.
incongruent.
Right.
How you gonna be like, you gonna get this dude a pass who might be a racist and who definitely was, who clearly seems to be a misogynist? How you gonna give him a pass because he said I changed, and then you're gonna be raking these cats over the coal, because they like some crazy UFC thing. And so I wanted to talk about it. One, because I was like, damn, you being inconsistent. But two, I was like, well, okay, do I have a different criteria
You know,
for black folk?
well, sometimes our in-group associations tend to be we have higher standards sometimes. We have higher expectations, right?
Right.
And you said this earlier. There's a clear difference between a Plattner type person and
Mm-hmm.
what we're seeing with Jay Williams and Stephen A. These are people who are consistently demonstrating a pattern of behavior that's problematic. So when they get on take their show and say, "Oh, how wonderful," this is the same kind of buffoonery and whatever the word is, coonness, coon ass stuff that that both of them have been demonstrating over the last several years. And so, how they got there and why they're there is a whole different story. Now, if they want to get out of that space, there is a path.
Preach,
There is a
preach,
path,
preach.
but it's not one. I mean, if George Wallace, the biggest racist in Alabama governor, can found a pathway out of his buffoonery,
Right.
these brothers can too. They just have to choose to.
Yes.
And there's people who are doing this all the time who've demonstrated and shown themselves not to be trustworthy for a number of different reasons or harmful, actually harm people. But
Yep.
they've done things to say, I don't think that's working for me anymore.
That's not. And I think, and I love when you said that earlier, when we were talking off air, because I was really struggling with this, because I'm like, I don't think you're being fair to them. But it clicked for me when you said they haven't changed. We can argue about whether Plattner has changed or not.
Right. Right.
But he at least is able to acknowledge that he has done some wrong. He's working to be a different person and is trying to demonstrate that by his action. Mm-hmm. I don't see that with Stephen A. I don't see that with Jay Williams. And I don't know that I see the insight or perspective even to articulate, like, this is kind of effed up for all kinds of reasons. And what I said wasn't cool, wasn't fair, is incongruous with what I believe. Now, maybe for both of them, this is what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there is, frankly, that level of shallowness in them that this is like, okay, this is fine, it's cool, it's not a big deal. But I think that's what I'm looking for from them, is a recognition of, I said some foul shit, stupid shit. I've learned from the error of my ways, and here's how I'm going to try to do better. And I think in Stephen A's situation in particular, there's never learning. It's just more, castigation and more crazy stuff that he says, to get, hits on ESPN or whatever. It's like, let me be as vile and foul as I can be with whatever I say, and bombastic, because that's going to get me followership. So in that sense, it even feels worse, because all you're trying to do is, get likes, if you will, and money, and there's no, where's your sense of humanity underneath it?
Yeah, and at an event where we'll talk about this in a moment, at an event where one of the fighters called Michelle Obama as a man.
Right.
So you can tell me how this is a great event and something like that, but not mention the fact that this happened. Now you can make an argument that that had nothing to do with it; it was separate things. But you had a major person who was part of this
Yeah.
event making commentary
Mm-hmm.
that was inappropriate and wrong, and so I can't think of an event being great when those kinds of things are going on.
Correct. Right. Exactly.
So yeah, and people are kind of thinking it's funny, and you got a
Right.
whole crowd getting involved
Mhm.
and kind of repeating the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't see how that's
No.
supposed to be a great event when those things
No.
happen, and
No.
it's
No.
almost given
And I
permission.
agree. Yeah,
So
I don't think it can be from my perspective. It's like, ugh, that's kind of disgusting, you know. I
yeah,
mean, so
so
that in and of itself, I mean, the fact that this place that we considered almost sacred, the White House, first of all, had this was could have never from Jump Street for me personally would have never made it a great event.
no,
Um, I'm like, you've commercialized the White House. I'm like, you've
yeah,
sold it around. But you know, but then to hear this commentary about Michelle Obama on top of
that was so
it,
frustrating.
it's like, oh no, that's just gross. I'm like, so
Well,
so then brothers on father as we head to Father's Day, and both of them are fathers. I hope some of the things that they're teaching their kids,
I hope their kids are teaching them.
well, right? Like I hope this ain't the stuff that you're teaching your kids, and I hope you're listening to your kids, and they're like, you know, Daddy, you got that one wrong. Like that's foul. So, but,
Well, cool. I want to transition. We didn't do a grounding card intentionally because I wanted to move to just focusing on the engagement cards. Um, and I wanted to use this one, and we'll finish with our side eye. To me, safety feels like blank. To me, safety feels like blank. And and for me, safety has felt like at being at peace, where I'm
mm,
not worried about money. I'm not worried about my
mm,
safety as far as physical
yeah,
safety and danger. And I feel loved in the home. It's
mm,
the appropriate temperature in the home. I'm not sweating my
right,
balls off
right.
or freezing my ass off. When and thank God I've had these moments. But those are the things I think of when I feel safety. It's how my world feels around me, but then also how I feel inside.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think for me, safety feels very much like the peace piece, but I think it's also um, when I feel cared for and concerned
Mm-hmm.
about um, by folks in my sphere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if it's just random. Hey, LJ, I was checking on you. You all right?
Yeah.
You good? Um, like there are people out there who looking out for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that feeling always feels very good and makes me feel very safe in the world. Like somebody gonna notice. You know?
Excellent. Excellent. Well, let's touch on this last one, which I think is a bit sad. More than sad, it's heartbreaking.
Mm.
We had earlier this week or this past weekend, I think. There was an incident in Mississippi. Unfortunately, it fits the
All the patterns.
all the things that people were worried about.
Mm-hmm.
Where a 1-year-old child was killed, black little boy was killed in his mother's arms
Mm.
because they believe that the mother or whoever they were there were stealing, shoplifting diapers. And one of the things that came up for me is one, the fuck, but
Right.
two,
Right.
y'all over here shooting guns over diapers. And
Diapers.
I thought when people, I mean, one of the things I thought is that when someone's leaving the store, the store, even the store is like, just let them be with them things,
Right.
with whatever they're taking.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to get our staff involved with
Right.
dealing with that stuff because it's just not worth it.
Right.
And so I'm just sitting here going, y'all over here shooting people because of diapers.
Diapers.
Well, and I know some people are going to be like, well, they should have been stealing. they shouldn't have been caught themselves in that situation. I mean, they're in Mississippi. I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't care about that. It's
Right.
still wrong.
Right.
It's an injustice, and
Hmm.
now there's a person, there's some parents, there's a family now who don't have a child because of this incident,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's so sad.
It is super sad, and unfortunately, these dynamics seem to play out in Black and Brown communities disproportionately.
Hmm.
Uh, so we can't just take it out of the realm of race,
Hmm.
uh, and think that it's some sanitized. This is the thing that happens everywhere, because that's not the treatment
No.
that, frankly, in white communities, when similar kinds of things happen.
Over
And
diapers.
over diapers, right, right. Worst case, somebody might have just been like, "Here, take the diapers," or bought the diapers for them. And you don't, and I don't know. So I want to be clear, I don't know the circumstances that may have led to that behavior if they actually were stealing diapers.
Right.
But it's disproportionate, you know, um, to the quote unquote crime. Why we got guns out for $12 worth of diapers? I mean, and I think it speaks to a larger issue for me, KP, which is Black folks in particular are not seen as human or valuable.
Right.
So, we like, okay, sure, and to the conversation we had last time, if the worst thing that mother or whomever it was who had taken those diapers, if that's what they did, if that's the worst thing that they've ever done, the response of taking their child is woefully out of proportion.
Yeah. Woefully makes no sense
Makes
whatsoever.
no makes no sense.
Right.
And so I and then we wonder why Black folks are afraid of the cops and don't want to deal
Oh,
with
well,
them.
why they're not welcome? Why
Oh well, right,
we like tense up when they show up
right.
to this
Why,
day.
why you tense?
I mean, I know I'm probably committing a crime, maybe jaywalking or speeding,
Mhm.
but there's no reason for me to be always tensing up every time the police
Right,
show up because I'm not
exactly.
committing no real crimes,
Right, right.
but because of my past experiences and the experience of
Exactly.
people I care about, that's
Exactly.
where it comes from because there's
Yeah,
anxiety, right?
right, right. You're traumatized by the broader experiences, not even your own traumas. I mean, you may have your own, but even you're like, I know, I mean, and look, we've talked about this. I mean, Black parents spend a lifetime, especially teaching their Black boys, um, how, in their minds, how not to get shot.
Yep,
Uh,
all the rules, the talk as
all
they
the
like to call
rules,
it.
the talk, exactly, the talk. I mean, manifest from these kinds of situations. Um,
Well, because what's been demonstrated is that despite the talks, despite the respectability politics, despite our best efforts to prepare, there's still danger afoot that we oftentimes can't protect our children from, and that
Absolutely.
feels
Right.
terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's oh, it's all the things. It's
It's all the
terrible.
things. Yeah.
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 I do want to connect this to the other conversation around Michelle Obama being called a man, because really it's an attempt, as you mentioned earlier, with this young boy, this child. It's another attempt to dehumanize a black woman of power and influence, who's
Mm-hmm.
probably the most popular politician,
Mm-hmm.
if not in this hemisphere, across the world,
Right.
because she's so well liked and respected, who's intelligent. But this dude, his way of entertaining others is to accuse her of being a man. And if she was a man, so what? But that's not the freaking point.
Right. It's not. Yeah. Exactly.
But you're doing it as a way of dehumanizing a black
Mm-hmm.
woman because black
Mm-hmm.
women can't be delicate, they can't be pristine, they can't be pure.
Mm-hmm.
You got to work them hard. They can't have as much pain as white
Right.
women, right?
Right.
They can endure pain actually more
Endure
so.
pain. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so, it's just more of that same trope that's been put out there about black women, despite the fact that she has been all the things we
Right.
needed her to be.
Right. Right. All the things, and has, the crazy part, Michelle Obama has consistently taken the high road on all kinds of things.
So much. Sometimes I don't
Yeah.
want to.
I'm always like, I was like, fuck that. Go low. Sometimes you gotta go
Sue
low.
them.
Right.
Sue him. For
Do do
defamation.
do, do what you gotta do. Go low. Because I mean, because sometimes like we used to say back in the day, sometimes you gotta punch a bully in the face.
Well,
Uh, and so if that's going low, go do what you gotta do. But I'm like, we ain't asking you to be, sanctified or sanctified in this. It's like, so, and I appreciate the double bind that, she and Barack are in
mhm.
around these kinds of things, and that the community is coming out in their support. But, the gall to be able to say this. And honestly, and I don't know if this man is a racist or a misogynist. I don't know nothing about this cat. I
Sounds
don't
like
even
it.
know and don't want to know his name. He got his 35 seconds of glory, and there's all this conversation around it. Um, but I think much of it was just done to be viral,
Yeah, yeah. Get
And
attention.
I'm like, that's the best you could do is to be viral. So, I mean, I wish she'd go low. Um, I
Please go
think
low.
go low. When you go low, sometimes we go lower. Um, and fight back, because I'm like, at some point, just always taking the bullshit, it's exhausting.
It is
Um,
exhausting. And
and if folks think they can always get away with it because you're gonna take the bullshit, sometimes I think they keep trying you.
but I do want to offer this before we wrap up. If I was Michelle Obama,
Mm-hmm.
sitting in the where she is in life, and it's a bit of a ivory tower,
Mm-hmm.
I would be looking down and be like, "Mm-hmm, moving on."
Well, that's it. I think that's their reaction, and her reaction is like, whatever. You're like,
Yeah,
keep pushing.
it's not the first time I've heard this.
Right.
Won't be the
Right.
last.
Won't be the last.
And while I'm doing what I'm doing good in the world,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna forget about you, and no
Right.
one's gonna remember your name.
Right. Because everybody remembers her name.
So, well, hey man, I know we got to wrap things up, but it was a pleasure sitting down and talking with
Brother,
you.
always good to rap
Again,
with you.
happy Juneteenth. I hope you have a
Happy
great
Juneteenth.
weekend.
You too.
And I don't know. I'm thinking things are going to be. I'm feeling good for today. So we're not going to do a celebration card because we're running out of time. But we'll get together next week and keep the conversation going. This is Riffing While Black.
And happy Father's Day to you and all the fathers listening.
All right. Well, happy Father's
I
Day.
appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, man. Take care. All right.
All right. Peace.